Hi, welcome to this week's episode. I'm here today with Cristiano Costa. He is an amazing world-renowned physiotherapist. We're here at Box East today. You're based in London and you work with amazing people, famous climbers like Alex Honnold, Neil Gresham, a bunch of the GB team. Like
Aidan Roberts, Molly Thompson, Nathan Phillips,
Matt Cousins.
Okay,
tons of people. So he's the best. He's the best in the business. He's here today. We're going to talk about properly warming up for climbing. There's a lot of us coming back from lockdown and we're going to try hard, hopefully, and get back into it. And that comes with greater risk of getting hurt. And so warming up is really important. And Chris, you're going to help us out with that.
Yes, thanks very much, Andrew, for having me today. And we are here to try to give or share some knowledge with the climbing community on pretty much warming up, as Andrew was saying before. So we're going to talk through, we have an array of equipment in here that we can look at on how to warm up, best techniques to warm up, and different muscle contractions that we can use to warm up, whether we're going to be bouldering, rope climbing, indoors, outdoors, and keep you safe and healthy, and avoid those niggles becoming a hindrance to your performance.
That's amazing. You've got tons of stuff over here.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff to look through. So what's the first thing? If I come into the gym, I'm going to go do a session, what should I do first?
So starting from the beginning, obviously, as we should do with anything in life or most things in life, is well-known fact and evidence-based that a good cardio warm-up is primary.
Yeah.
So have your heart rate going, pulse going, but it's not only about raising your heart rate as well. So I see myself, I have over 3 decades of climbing experience myself, and for me, my warm-up, it's almost when I start to get into what some people call focus or the zone as well.
Okay.
So it's almost a ritual for me to warm up, because then I'm telling my body what I'm going to be doing next.
Yeah.
And muscles, they have their own memory as well. And actually having a good warm-up regime and a good routine that we go through, then will just help us and aid us not only to get our muscles ready, but our tendons, our ligaments, our nervous system as well, get the mobility going, so you're going to get the best out of it and avoid having unwanted outcomes like an injury. When I get people in the clinic, usually their injuries or their traumas happen either at the beginning of the session when someone has probably not warmed up enough, or more towards the end of the session when we have that one last go.
Yes.
Is a classic, isn't it? I think all of us have been at one stage or another.
I guess you're really tired at that point, so there's less muscle stability.
Absolutely. Mainly what happens sometimes, or not always, but the case is you're absolutely right. We're probably a little bit tired, and then the firing of the muscles, the muscle activation is not there to support us, and then you're putting more stress and strain on more not so dynamic structures, but the more what we call static structures, or more passive structures, actually, you should say, like things like ligaments, which links bones to bones, or joints as well, so cartilage, and then obviously something will go and something will give.
So we show up to the gym, you get your cardio done first, get focused in the zone.
Absolutely.
Get ready to go.
Especially nowadays as well, with the limited number or limited time in the gym, maybe you might want to think about maybe just go to a park and do some pulse raids on the park just next to a climbing gym, or if you cycle to the gym, or if you run to the gym, those are good ways as well. Or even if you come on the tube as well, I will show you some techniques now and some things that you can use while you are on your journey into the climbing gym on the public transport. Hopefully not if you are driving, then avoid it.
don't drive and warm up. Maybe some of you can, but anyway. Okay, cool. So let's jump into it. Let's look at some of these things.
So to be a little bit more focused, and with the session today, we are concentrating more on fingers. So I quite like to do some fist bumps. So generally just opening and closing your fingers. You can do it for a good minute. You can change your arm positions as well, or you can have down by your side. Do some finger motion in here as well. So just get those joints loosen up. So we're gonna get the maximum performance that we want to go through. Another nice technique that I like to use as well, always good thing. So if you want to keep in check to avoid an injury happening to your fingers, you really want to look at range of motion. So we should always be able to touch with the pads of our fingers, our palms of our hands in there. So we make sure that we have full range of motion in there. If you're experiencing issues with range of motion, then we need to identify, is it a joint issue or is it a muscle length issue? And a good way to actually try to find out is doing what is called a muscle energy technique, or MET. You can have your fingers in this position there, so in this kind of grip, and then you can put the palm of the hand in front of it, and then you pushing in this direction into extension, so using your extensor muscles, and then you can hold that contraction, which is an isometric contraction, for anything between 7 to 10 seconds. And then after you held it, you want to be doing about 70% of your maximum contraction. So you're not going to be pushing 100%, but about 70%. And that's probably about 7 seconds in there. And you can repeat that for 3 times on each side. So you can alternate doing your right, left. And then you can recheck and see whether you gain any more range of motion in there. If that is the case, it's probably that you had some issue with overactivity of your extensor muscles in there. Because as we're doing this is the end of flexion. And obviously we need the suppleness and the length on the extensor muscles. So that might be a good way as well to just keep it in check and just get your range of motion going. And then now I'm going to move on to, after having looked at all the gear we can access and have ready at home or at the climbing gym, I'm just going to give you a pick of the bunch, and we're just going to look through some 3 or maybe a few more exercises that I always do as my warm-up regime, and I think we all benefit from it as well. So when you come into the gym, most climbing gyms nowadays, they will have some dumbbells or kettlebells or some weights. So a little bit of a weight in there. I can't really tell you how much weight you're going to be using, but you're going to have to assess it yourself. And I will show you in a sec what you're going to be doing with the weights. Portable fingerboard, or wherever you get hold of, or you can use the fingerboards at the gym as well to do what I'm going to show you. Some gyms will have some portable fingerboards, and one bit of tool that I always like having with me, whether I'm outside or indoors, is an egg hand exerciser. So you can get this from internet, really handy kind of tool. So you can do, if I show you, the first thing I like doing is just a gross flexion exercise in there. Get my forearms pumping, flexors, and you can see some activation on the extensors in there as well. And I would recommend you to probably do 20 reps on each side of a gross flexion there. When you come back next time around, what I would recommend you to do is probably do it with the wrist into flexion. So you're going to be change the length of the muscle in here. So this would be more on the inner range of the forearm flexors in there. Because obviously when we climb and we take the wrist throughout the whole range. So if you're climbing more on vertical grounds, you're going to be more on a neutral position. As you're going more into an overhanging, you're probably going to be going more into an extended position of the wrist in there. So the wrist joint is more into extension, which is going to be the outer range of your flexor muscles in there. And then sometimes getting those slopers or getting like volumes as well, especially, you're going to be more into this range in here. And then you do your 20 reps there, 20 reps on the other side, and then you can come back and do it into the outer range, which is with the wrist into extension. You can have your arm here, you can have your elbow by your side, so you tuck it in, because all the motion is happening just between your forearms in there. And then still with the egg hand exerciser, which again is a really handy tool, you can do some pinching. So if I show you here, keeping your index finger straight, and then you just pinch in there. So we have done already some pinch mobility exercises, and then you can move on to the other fingers, throughout the fingers. And again, I would say probably a good 20 reps on each side. And then you can come back to some flexion, and this time you're gonna do onto the finger tips in there, and then you're just pressing, and this will actually work the flexor muscles in a different way as well. And this is not stressing so much your pulley system as well, as we obviously talking mainly about fingers and warming up our fingers. This is a really nice way, so it's not causing any kind of bowstring or too much stress on the pulley system in there, and it's getting that tendon glide and slide as well. And this is a really nice squeegee ball and a really nice resistance as well to get us warmed up. And another exercise that I would strongly recommend you to do, I quite like to work on my lumbrical muscles as well. There are obviously different ways to work our lumbrical muscles, but obviously finger adduction is one of them. So the lumbrical muscles, they come from in between the metacarpal bones there and insert into the first phalange, and I like to think of them almost like the foundation of our fingers. So it's always good to have that recruitment on the lumbrical muscles. Another way to work our lumbrical muscles as well is if you have access to mainly the beast makers, they've got those flat slopers. So when you're doing a flat sloper, this kind of grip in here is called the lumbrical grip, because it's really coming from this knuckle joint in there rather than so much from the flexor muscles. We're obviously going to get some flexor activation as well, because as we inherently are flexing the fingers in there. So just recapping, with the egg bowl, we're doing gross flexion in there, and then we're going to do pinching, and then we do the pointing flexion in there, changing the wrist positions as well. And then we're gonna do our lumbrical muscles in there. So you really try to get it really into the web space. And the important thing is that you make sure that you have your palm flat so that you really isolate the flexor muscles rather than involve intrinsic muscles of the hand in there. So my next exercise or pick of the bench would be get a bit of a weight, which I said you have to assess how much weight you're going to be loading. This is a 5 kg is usually what I use. And I would recommend you to start with some extension exercise. So you can just sit on the mat of the gym there. And you can do anything between 15 to 20 reps. Again, as I said, you're not going to be doing strengthening, but you're just going to be doing some muscle activation. So you do on both sides. So you do one side and the other, and then you can just alternate. And again, if you want to concentrate more on your flexors, then you can come back and just do some more flexion exercise in here. Another really good way using a dumbbell. So we're going to do flexion and extension, 3 sets of 15 to 20 reps. So you need to be able to do that without getting fatigued as well. So you might need to drop the weight and just see what's going to work for you at the time. And another exercise I quite like doing is you letting the weight drop as far as you can and bring it up again. As far as you can, bring it up again. Really good exercise to get that gliding and slide of our tendons again through the pulley system and working our flexors and extensor muscles in there. Again, anything between 15 to 20 reps, as we're not going to be focused on strength. Brilliant. So in the progression of our warming up regime, the next thing I like to use is a portable fingerboard. Some gyms will have it. Otherwise, you can also adapt this to the fingerboards you're going to have access to at a climbing gym anyway. So I usually use this setup in here. So we're going to be doing 3 different main muscle contractions in here. We're going to start with isometrics. So you know that so far we have been doing loads of mobility exercise, muscle activation, getting the body ready to exercise, but also improving the suppleness of the connective tissue. Now this time we're going to look at isometrics on this to start with, and then we're going to move on to eccentrics, and then we're going to move on to concentric eccentric, which is probably more advanced level climber we will be using. So with the isometrics, you know through research, and it's evidence-based, that long pain times or long contraction times will help to stiffen the connective tissue. So we know that we're only going to go to that dynamic move. You want the tissue to be ready to go and to hold our body weight. What an isometric contraction means is that we're going to hold a position and there is no length change in the muscle. So what we're going to do is there is no loading here. I'm just resting my fingers there. I'm going to get into a half crane position and then I'm going to apply the load by pulling it up. Form is the key when we want to reduce or minimize the risk of injuries. So in here, as we said before, we're going to be holding for a long contraction period of time. I'm not going to hold for the whole length, but you're looking at 30 seconds and you're going to do 30 seconds on each side. So you're going to do 30 seconds on your right, or if you start with your left, and then you're going to rest for 2 minutes. In those 2 minutes of resting, you can carry on doing your shoulder warm-up, hips, knees, whatever other kind of exercise. You can do your core exercise in between that time as well, and then come back and repeat it 5 times. So this is your isometric contraction. And then the next one, we're going to go for the eccentrics. So again, no load. I'm going to get into my half crane position. You're always aiming to have an edge of 18 to 20 mils. 20 mils seems to be really hitting the golden standard, where you get most of the muscle activation as well on our forearms. Obviously, if you're going to be climbing routes that are more crimpy, you're also going to want to use smaller edges too. So for the eccentrics, you're going to get into the half crane position, apply the load, good form, and then what I'm doing here is I'm just opening my fingers out onto an open hand position. So this is a eccentric contraction of my flexors of the forearms in there. And then you release the tension, no load now, get back into the position, I'm just balancing there, and then you come back, and then you just let go again. In this contraction length of time here, you're aiming for anything between 2 to 4 seconds. You don't want it too fast and not too slow as well. So it should be a nice, smooth contraction. And you're gonna go for, again, 15 to 20 reps each side. And you're gonna repeat again for 5 times. and have about a minute and a half resting time. And then for the more advanced climbers, we can go for our concentric, which you need a certain level of strength as well on your fingers, have a good adaptation of your tendons and joints so that you're not overstressing it. But I will show you here anyway. So what you do is no load again, load it, and then you let go onto the open hand, and then you bring it back again. So it's almost like if you're doing your finger rolls, it's some kind of similar, but you really just on your fingertips in there. And in here you can do anything between 15 to 20 reps as well as a warm-up. If you're doing a strengthening regime, then obviously you want to change that recipe in there, okay? And again, do it both sides and then repeat it 5 times with a minute and a half resting time. Very good.
Thanks for that. That's a really informative, really great. How long does this usually take?
So once you're really into that routine and you know what you're gonna be doing, I'm gonna be looking at probably 15, 20 minutes, if not even less than that.
Yeah.
And obviously you don't have to go through all the exercise, but I would strongly recommend that you get the peak of the bench and make sure
like if you're pushing it, it's helpful, right? I don't know about you guys, but I've been injured before. I've had finger injuries, and I'd rather do this than like get something, get hurt, and then take tons of time off, and then sets you really far back. So that's good. 10,
Absolutely.
15 minutes.
You're well worth the time. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, Andrew. Thanks that you touched on it. Coming from yourself as well, better than coming from me, actually.
Yeah.
We all have been there. I have had my injuries as well, and it's really definitely not worth skipping it.
No.
So do your exercise, do your warm-up, stay away from injuries, and that will just keep you climbing in a healthy way, and then you don't have to go through the routes of rehab and have to take some time off or take the foot off the gas and maybe having to cancel that trip or not being able to climb for a while and meet your mates and all the consequences that will
cancel the trip, go do it. If you can travel right now, work your project.
Fair point.
You got something else here too for skincare.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and obviously I'm not a dietitian myself, but obviously other factors that we need to look into for injury avoidance or minimize the risk of injury is like sleeping is a big factor as well. With all the hormonal changes. If we don't have enough sleep, we're going to have an impact on our physical and mental health as well. Also hydration is another biggie, so it's very important that we keep well hydrated. When you exercise, you should be drinking approximately 3 to 4 liters a day. Diet as well, have a healthy, good diet. Obviously, will take you a long way. And obviously, some skincare as well. So obviously, we're talking today about fingers. So I'm a big advocate of climb skiing. Absolutely make sure you have your skin in good condition. That will also improve your performance. I always take a file with me, file my dead skin there, and I have the Smile. Again, from climbing skiing, to cut any dead skin, make sure that you don't have any flappers, especially now coming back and getting the skin back into condition.
I had 4 flappers in my head.
There you go.
First day outside climbing, I go for the last hole, 2 right there. I actually used Climb Skin, and it was great. So now's the perfect time to have skincare, proper skincare for that.
Absolutely, yes.
Sweet, amazing.
Very good. Thanks so much, Andrew, for having me today here.
On.
And I hope you're all going to benefit from these tips. And hit us up if you have any questions.
Yes, go find Chris. You can find him online. You're on Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram. Cristiano Costa 11.
Coming soon for
Motos.
Motos. And if you're in London, go check him out. He's the best. He's the master. When anybody's hurt in London, they go see him. The best. Okay, thanks. Thanks for coming.
Thanks very much, Andrew.
And
pleasure being here with you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.